The vast emptiness of space surrounded the UES Prometheus as it moved slowly through the Kepler sector. Captain James Mitchell stood on the bridge, looking out at the distant stars. The year was 2387, and humans had been part of the big galaxy club for almost 200 years. But they were always treated like the little kids who got to carry bags and clean up after the real members. James was tired of it. His ship was Earth's newest attempt at making something that could fight, not just haul cargo from one planet to another. While other alien races had fancy energy shields and bright plasma guns, humans had built something different. They used old-fashioned bullets, just much bigger and much faster. "Captain," called Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes from her station. Her voice was tight with worry. "I'm getting a distress call. It's a science ship from the Confederation. Someone is attacking them." James turned around quickly. The Kepler sector was supposed to be safe space, far from any trouble. "Who's attacking them?" "I don't know, sir. The ships don't match anything in our database. But there are 3 Altarian cruisers heading there to help." The Altarians were some of the toughest fighters in the galaxy. Their ships were huge and covered with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. If they were worried, this was serious trouble. "Take us there, full speed. Get everyone ready for a fight." The Prometheus jumped into hyperspace, covering the distance in minutes. When they came out, James felt his stomach drop. The 3 Altarian cruisers were being torn apart by ships that looked like they were made of shadow and nightmare. The enemy vessels moved wrong, like they weren't completely real, phasing in and out of normal space. "What in hell are those things?" whispered Commander David Parker from the weapons station. Chief Engineer Lisa Thompson looked pale. "I think they are void wraiths. I heard stories about them when I was studying old galactic history. They were supposed to be locked away thousands of years ago." James had heard those stories too. Ancient enemies that nearly destroyed the galaxy before being trapped behind some kind of barrier. But stories didn't usually blow up real spaceships. The largest Altarian cruiser exploded in a ball of fire. The science ship was trying to run, but it was too slow. In a few more minutes, everyone would be dead. "Target the biggest enemy ship. Fire everything we have." The Prometheus shook as its railguns fired. Unlike the pretty energy beams that other races used, human weapons shot solid metal chunks at incredible speed. The Wraith ship that got hit seemed surprised, like it had never felt anything like that before. "Direct hit," David shouted. Their shields didn't stop it at all. "Keep shooting. Don't give them time to think." For 20 long minutes, the small human ship fought alone against enemies that had been destroying advanced alien warships like they were made of paper. The Wraiths kept trying to adapt their defenses, but they couldn't figure out how to stop simple metal moving really fast. When the enemy finally gave up and disappeared, 3 of the galaxy's most powerful warships were floating dead in space. But the little human ship was still there, still fighting. James stared at the display screen showing the battle damage. They had won. Actually won against something that the advanced alien races couldn't handle. It didn't make sense, but the proof was right there in front of them. The rescued survivors from the science ship filled up their medical bay. Most of them were aliens that James had only seen in pictures before. Dr. Emily Watson worked hard to help them, even though she had never treated these kinds of beings before. The leader of the survivors was an Altarian commander with blue scales covering his face. He kept staring at James like he was looking at a ghost. "Captain, your weapon should not have worked. Our information says human technology is hundreds of years behind everyone else's." James looked at David, then back at the alien. "Sometimes the old ways work better. But the Wraiths learn from every attack. Their ships change their defenses after getting hit once. Nothing should be able to hurt them twice." Lisa looked up from her computer. "That's because they are built to stop energy weapons. Lasers, plasma, particle beams, all that fancy stuff follows rules they can learn. But a big chunk of metal moving at almost light speed? That's just physics. You can't adapt to getting hit by a freight train." The Altarian's eyes went wide. "Captain, what do you know about the ancient war?" "Just old stories. The good guys won and locked the bad guys away." "Not stories. History. And the prison is breaking." The alien's voice got very quiet. The science ship was watching for cracks in the barrier. The readings show it's falling apart. They're getting through in bigger numbers every day. Rebecca looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm getting emergency signals from all over this part of space. 6 whole star systems just went quiet in the last few hours." James felt a cold weight in his chest. This wasn't some small fight on the edge of nowhere. This was the start of another war that could destroy everything. And somehow, The humans, the race everyone thought was too stupid and primitive to matter, had just become the most important people in the galaxy. Set course for New Centauri. The Council needs to know what's happening. Sir, David said quietly, you know they won't listen to us. James nodded. The alien leaders had made it very clear what they thought of humans over the past 200 years. But now those same aliens were dying, and their wonderful technology was useless. Maybe it's time they started listening. The medical bay of the Prometheus was packed with injured aliens that Dr. Emily Watson had only seen in textbooks. She worked quickly to help the crystal-like Nexari whose hard shells were cracked and broken. Some of the gas creatures' Epherians were leaking from holes in their special suits that kept them together. Captain James Mitchell walked between the beds, looking at the survivors they had pulled from the wreckage. He stopped at the bed of the Altarian commander, whose blue scales were darker now from pain and shock. Commander Veltar, James said, reading the name from the medical chart. Can you tell me what happened out there? The alien tried to sit up, wincing as he moved. Captain, your ship should not exist. Our intelligence reports say human weapons are toys compared to real military equipment. James pulled up a chair. Well, our toys just saved your life. You don't understand. The Wraiths adapt to everything. Their technology learns from each attack and builds defenses against it. After the first hit, nothing should be able to hurt them again. Nothing. Commander David Parker joined them, holding a data pad. We recorded the whole fight. Want to see something interesting? The small screen showed the battle from the Prometheus's cameras. The Altarian ships fired their plasma cannons at the Wraith vessels. The first few shots hit and caused damage. Then the enemy shields changed color and started absorbing the energy blasts like they were feeding on them. See that? David pointed at the screen. Their shields learned to eat your weapons in less than 30 seconds. Then the recording showed the human ship firing its rail guns. The metal projectiles punched right through the Wraith shields like they weren't even there. Again and again, the solid bullets found their targets while the alien energy weapons became useless. Veltar stared at the screen. Impossible. Their adaptive matrix should analyze any attack pattern and develop countermeasures within moments. Chief Engineer Lisa Thompson looked up from checking on a wounded Nexari. That's the problem with being too smart. They are built to counter energy-based attacks because that's what everyone in the galaxy uses. But we're still throwing rocks, just really fast rocks. Your species uses kinetic projectiles. Veltar asked, his voice full of disbelief. Metal slugs accelerated to about 90% of light speed, Lisa explained. No fancy physics to analyze. No energy pattern to copy. Just mass times velocity equals a very bad day for whoever gets hit. Dr. Watson came over, wiping her hands on a towel. Commander Veltar, you mentioned these wraiths before. What exactly are they? The Altarian commander's face went pale, which was hard to see through his blue scales. 3,000 years ago, they almost consumed the entire galaxy. They would arrive at a star system and drain all life from every planet. Billions died before the Confederation found a way to trap them. Trap them how? James asked. Dimensional barriers. Reality anchors. Technology so advanced that most of it was lost when the war ended. The survivors built monitoring stations to watch for cracks in the prison. Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes called out from her communication station. Captain, I'm getting reports from across the sector. 7 more star systems have gone completely dark. No response to any signals. James felt his blood run cold. How many people live in those systems? Combined population of about 12 billion, sir. The medical bay went quiet except for the soft beeping of medical equipment. 12 billion people, just gone. Like they had never existed. Veltar struggled to sit up straighter. Captain, you must understand. The ancient war lasted for over 1,000 years. Every major civilization in the galaxy worked together to stop them. We developed weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. Shields that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Entire fleets of ships larger than your biggest cities. And it still took 1,000 years to win. David asked. We didn't win. We just managed to lock them away and hope they would never get out. Dr. Watson checked her medical scanner. Commander, these energy readings I'm getting from your injuries, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. What exactly did those ships do to you? Veltar's voice became very quiet. They don't just destroy matter. They consume it. Break it down into pure energy and feed on it. Every ship they destroy makes them stronger. Every world they harvest gives them more power. Lisa looked up from her engineering station. That explains why they adapted so quickly to your weapons. They were literally eating the energy from your plasma cannons and using it to improve their defenses. But they can't eat momentum, James said, understanding dawning on his face. A chunk of metal moving at light speed is just physics. No energy signature to absorb, no pattern to learn from. Rebecca turned from her station. Captain, we're getting a priority message from Admiral Kane on Earth. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. They want all available ships to report to New Centauri immediately. James looked around the medical bay at the survivors of 3 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Ships that had been designed to fight wars between civilizations, reduced to scrap metal by an enemy that most people thought was just a scary story. Tell Admiral Kane we're on our way. And Rebecca, send our battle recordings along with the message. The Council needs to see exactly what we're dealing with. Veltar grabbed James's arm as he started to leave. Captain, there's something else. The science vessel was monitoring the dimensional barriers when they were attacked. The readings they got before the Wraiths found them, the barriers aren't just cracking. They're collapsing completely. What does that mean? It means this isn't a small breach that can be repaired. The entire prison is coming apart. In a matter of weeks, maybe days, every Wraith ship that was locked away will be free to attack the galaxy. James stared at the alien commander, feeling the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. An enemy that had once nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy was breaking free, and the only weapons that seemed to work against them were the crude kinetic guns that everyone thought were outdated. How many ships are we talking about? Veltar's voice was barely a whisper. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. And they've had 3,000 years to plan their revenge. The council chamber on New Centauri was the most beautiful building James Mitchell had ever seen. Huge crystal towers from the Nexari homeworld reached toward the ceiling, living trees from the Zephyrian world grew through the walls, and metal artwork from dozens of other planets decorated every surface. Standing in the middle of it all, James felt very small and very human. The representatives of the galaxy's most powerful races sat in a giant circle around him. High Counselor Zathek was a Nexari, his crystal body so tall that James had to crane his neck to see his face. Light bounced off the alien's surface and created rainbows on the walls as he spoke. Captain Mitchell, you claim to have defeated ancient enemies using primitive weapons. Not primitive, honored counselor. Effective. A sound like wind chimes filled the chamber. James realized the other aliens were laughing at him. Admiral Thane of the Corvan Empire leaned forward in his chair. His face was covered in battle scars, and his eyes were cold as ice. Human, my people fought the Wraiths for 1,000 years. We built weapons that could destroy stars. We made shields that existed in other dimensions. Are you telling us that metal bullets work better than our greatest technology? I'm telling you that metal bullets worked because they're not what the Wraiths expected. Impossible, hissed Counselor Ethyn. The Zephyrian's gas-like body swirled inside a clear container that let him survive in the chamber's atmosphere. The Wraiths adapt to all threats. This is known fact throughout the galaxy. James activated the holographic display he had brought with him. The recording from the Prometheus showed the battle step by step. First, the Altarian ships fired their plasma cannons at the Wraith vessels. The energy beams hit and caused damage at first. Then the enemy shields changed color and started absorbing the attacks, making them stronger. Then the human ship appeared on the recording, firing its rail guns. The metal projectiles punched through the same shields like they were made of paper. Over and over, the kinetic weapons found their targets while the advanced alien technology became useless. Equipment failure, Admiral Thane declared, waving his hand dismissively. Your sensors malfunctioned. The Wraiths were clearly already damaged from our attack. 3 different battles, Admiral. Same results every time. And I have Commander Veltar's testimony from the survivors. High Counselor Zathek's crystal body rang like a bell, which James had learned was how Nexari showed they were annoyed. Captain Mitchell, humanity's role in the Confederation is appreciated. Your cargo ships move goods efficiently. Your mining operations provide useful materials. Your farms feed many worlds. But military strategy requires wisdom your species has not yet developed. The words hit James like a slap in the face. Even now, with proof right in front of them, they still saw humans as nothing more than workers and farmers. And when the Wraiths break through the inner barriers? When they reach the core worlds with billions of people? Admiral Thane stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow over James. The Confederation Navy has protected this galaxy for 3,000 years. We do not need lessons from a species that still uses chemical rockets to reach orbit. Those chemical rockets just saved 3 shiploads of your people. A lucky accident. Nothing more. Counselor Ethyn's gaseous form pulsed with different colors, showing his irritation. Captain, your species has been part of the Confederation for 2 centuries. In that time, you have contributed 0 military innovations. 0 strategic advances. 0 improvements to our defensive capabilities. Why should we believe you have suddenly become relevant? James felt anger building in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. Because your advanced weapons don't work against an enemy that can adapt to energy-based attacks. Because your perfect strategies are useless against opponents who learn from every move you make. Because sometimes the old ways work when the new ways fail. Ridiculous, Admiral Thane snorted. The Wraiths were defeated once using proper military science. They will be defeated again the same way. With respect, Admiral, you didn't defeat them. You trapped them. And now the trap is breaking. High Counselor Zarthek turned to face the other representatives. The human has presented his evidence. Are there any questions before we proceed with standard defensive protocols? A tall, thin alien that James didn't recognize raised one of its 4 arms. What is the current status of our barrier monitoring stations? 17 stations have gone offline in the past week, replied a military aide. We assume equipment failure or routine maintenance issues. James stared at them in disbelief. 17 stations? That's not equipment failure. That's the Wraith systematically destroying your early warning system. Pure speculation, Admiral Thane said coldly. As the council moved on to other business, James realized they weren't going to listen. These beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years couldn't accept that their technology and strategies might be wrong. They were so convinced of their own superiority that they would rather ignore evidence than admit a primitive species like humanity might have something valuable to offer. Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes was waiting for him in the corridor outside the chamber. Sir, priority message from Earth Command. Eyes only. James read the encrypted message on her datapad. His expression changed as he absorbed the contents. Ready the ship, Lieutenant. We're going home. Sir? What about the Council's decision? James handed back the datapad and started walking toward the docking bay. The Council has made their decision clear. They think their advanced technology and superior strategies will save them. And what does Earth Command think? James smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. Earth Command thinks it's time to stop asking permission and start building real warships. Behind them, the debate continued in the Council chamber. The representatives discussed deployment of their fleets, activation of ancient defense systems, and implementation of strategies that had worked 3,000 years ago. They had complete confidence in their superiority. None of them knew that in the past 24 hours, 31 star systems had gone completely silent. The Wraiths weren't just testing defenses anymore. They were harvesting entire civilizations, growing stronger with every world they consumed. And the galaxy's leaders were too proud to listen to the one species that had found a way to hurt them. The Sol system looked like a construction yard on steroids. As the Prometheus approached Earth, Captain James Mitchell counted over 300 ships being built in space around the planet. These weren't the smooth, pretty vessels that other alien races like to build. These were ugly, angry-looking warships that had only one job, to destroy things completely. Admiral Robert Kane's weathered face appeared on the main screen as they docked at Lunar Shipyard. The old man's eyes were hard as steel, and his smile looked like a wolf showing its teeth. Welcome home, Captain Mitchell. I trust the Galactic Council was happy to hear your report. They threw it in the trash, Admiral. Called our weapons toys for children. Kane's smile got bigger. Perfect. That means they won't see us coming until it's too late. The briefing room was packed with people James hadn't seen together in years. General Mary Collins from Strategic Command sat next to Admiral William Drake from Fleet Operations. Dr. Michael Foster from the Weapons Division was setting up a holographic display that made James's eyes go wide. Ladies and gentlemen, Kane began, Project Shockwave is now active. Captain Mitchell's fight with the Wraiths proved what our computer models predicted. Normal galactic warfare is completely useless against an enemy that learns from every attack. Dr. Foster turned on the hologram, and James felt his breath catch in his throat. The ship displayed was enormous, at least twice as big as the largest alien battleship he had ever seen. But where other species built their ships to look graceful and beautiful, this thing was pure human engineering, brutal, efficient, and scary as hell. The UES Ragnarok, Foster said with obvious pride in his voice. Our first real Star Destroyer. No energy shields, they're worthless against enemies that adapt. Instead, we built layered armor that can stop anything and reactive plating that explodes outward when hit. General Collins pointed at different parts of the ship design. No plasma weapons, they can be counted too easily. Instead, we have rail guns that fire projectiles at 90% of light speed. Each shot hits with more force than a nuclear bomb. The real breakthrough is in tactics, Kane said quietly. While other species fight in neat formations with predictable strategies, we're using chaos theory. Random attack patterns, improvised tactics, and real-time adaptation to whatever the enemy does. Admiral Drake pulled up another display showing smaller ships surrounding the massive destroyer. We've built a whole fleet based on this concept. Fast attack ships, heavy cruisers, support vessels, all designed to fight in ways that can't be predicted or countered. There's something else, Kane said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. We've integrated artificial intelligence into our targeting computers. It's completely banned by galactic law, but the Confederation isn't exactly in a position to arrest us right now. James studied the ship specifications on the hologram. Every system was designed to be unpredictable. The weapons could fire in random patterns. The engines could change direction instantly. Even the armor was built to absorb damage in chaotic ways that would confuse enemy senses. When do we launch? James asked. 1 week. But there's bad news. Kane's expression grew serious. The Wraiths broke through the inner barriers 2 days ago. The Nexus Gate is under attack right now. Every major fleet in the galaxy is heading there for what might be the final battle of this war. Through the window, James could see work crews crawling all over the Ragnarok's hull like ants. Sparks flew from welding torches as they raced to finish humanity's first real contribution to galactic warfare. For 200 years, humans had been treated like servants and workers, good enough to haul cargo but not smart enough for real military duty. Admiral, James said, I want to command the Ragnarok. Kane nodded like he had been expecting this. I was hoping you would ask. You're the only human who has actually fought these things and won. The ship is yours, Captain. Time to show the galaxy what happens when humans stop following their rules. Dr. Foster brought up detailed weapon specifications. Each main gun fires a projectile weighing 2 tons at enormous speed. The impact creates an explosion equivalent to 50 nuclear warheads. We call it the Planet Cracker because that's literally what it could do. What about crew? James asked. Volunteers only, General Collins replied. Every person on that ship knows they might not come home. But we've got more applications than we can handle. Turns out a lot of humans are tired of being treated like second-class citizens. Admiral Drake activated a communication display showing reports from across the galaxy. The situation is getting worse every hour. 43 star systems have gone dark in the past week. The Wraiths are harvesting entire civilizations and growing stronger with every world they consume. James watched the report scroll by. Billions of people, just gone. Worlds that had existed for thousands of years, reduced to empty rocks floating in space. The alien races with their advanced technology and superior strategies were being slaughtered like sheep. The Nexus Gate controls hyperspace travel to the core worlds, Kane explained. If it falls, the Wraiths will have access to every major population center in the galaxy. Earth included. How long do we have? The Confederation fleet is holding them off, but they are taking massive losses. Our intelligence suggests they have maybe days before the defenses collapse completely. James looked at the Ragnarok one more time. It wasn't pretty, but it was built by human hands using human ideas. No fancy alien technology, no elegant design philosophy. Just brutal engineering designed to win fights. Get me a crew roster, Admiral. And prep the ship for immediate departure. Kane's wolf-like smile returned. Already done, Captain. Welcome to the war. Time to remind the galaxy why they should never underestimate the species that conquered their own planet before they even knew aliens existed. Outside the window, Earth's first star destroyer waited in the darkness, ready to shatter the stillness of humanity's long servitude forever. The Nexus Gate had once been the most beautiful sight in the galaxy. The massive space station was bigger than most moons, covered in lights that sparkled like jewels against the darkness. It controlled all hyperspace travel to the core worlds where billions of people lived on thousands of planets. Now it looked like hell itself. Admiral James Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UES Ragnarok as they dropped out of hyperspace. The tactical display showed over 1,000 Confederation ships arranged in perfect defensive lines around the station. Their energy weapons created brilliant flashes of light as they fired at the dark enemy fleet. But they were losing badly. "Dear God," whispered Commander David Parker, who was now serving as James's second-in-command. "How many Wraith ships are out there?" "Too many to count," replied Captain Thomas Wright from the destroyer UES Thunderbolt. His ship was one of 6 human vessels that had followed the Ragnarok into this nightmare. "And our side is getting slaughtered." The beautiful formations that had dominated galactic warfare for thousands of years were being torn apart. Every time the alien ships tried a new tactic, the Wraiths learned from it and countered within minutes. Every new weapon frequency was analyzed and made useless almost instantly. "Admiral Thane is asking for our help," reported Lieutenant Rebecca Hayes from her communication station. "The Corvin Empire's Dreadnought Squadron is down to less than half strength." James opened a channel to the Confederation fleet. Admiral Thane's scared face appeared on the screen, and for the first time, James saw fear in the alien's eyes. "Admiral Mitchell, the Wraiths have adapted to all our weapons. Your kinetic systems might help for a few minutes, but they'll learn to stop those too." "Admiral," James interrupted, "we're not here to fight like you do." He closed the channel and turned to his crew. The bridge was filled with humans who had volunteered for what everyone knew might be a suicide mission. "All ships, break formation. Random targeting, maximum chaos. Make it impossible for them to predict what we'll do next." The small human fleet scattered like a pack of wild animals. Instead of the neat lines and careful formations that other species used, they spread out in all directions. The Ragnarok's massive guns began firing at seemingly random targets, hitting weak spots and engine compartments instead of following normal military targeting. Direct hit on a Wraith command ship, called Captain Sarah Bennett from the cruiser UES Avalanche. "Their shields aren't stopping our kinetic rounds at all." "Keep them confused," James ordered. "No patterns they can figure out. Rebecca, patch me through to all Confederation ships." His voice echoed across the entire battle. "All vessels, stop fighting in formation. Break into small groups and attack randomly. Don't give them time to learn your tactics." For the first time in hours, the tide of battle began to change. The Wraith fleet had been designed to counter the predictable energy-based attacks that every other species used. But now they faced an enemy that seemed to have no plan at all. Human ships dove through enemy formations like angry bees, firing weapons that couldn't be absorbed or redirected. They used tactics that abandoned all military logic, attacking from directions that made no sense and targeting systems that seemed unimportant. "The big Wraith mothership is moving toward us," David reported from his station. "It's 3 times our size and covered in enough weapons to destroy a planet." James smiled grimly. "Then let's show them what human engineering can really do. All power to the main gun. Target their central reactor." The Ragnarok's planet cracker cannon was the most powerful weapon humanity had ever built. It fired a solid metal projectile the size of a small building at nearly the speed of light. The entire ship shuddered and groaned as the massive gun charged up. "Firing solution locked," called the weapons officer. "Fire." The recoil from the shot pushed the enormous ship backward despite its dampening systems. The projectile crossed the space between ships in less than a second. The Wraith mothership, its adaptive systems still trying to understand this new form of attack, had no defense against several tons of metal moving faster than thought. The explosion lit up the entire battlefield like a new star being born. The ancient enemy vessel came apart in a chain reaction that sent debris flying in all directions. Around the battle zone, other Wraith ships suddenly became sluggish and confused, their coordinated attacks falling into chaos. "Their command structure is breaking down," reported Dr. Emily Watson from the science station. "Looks like they depend on central coordination more than we thought." What followed wasn't the elegant conclusion of traditional galactic warfare, but the brutal efficiency of human tactics. The remaining Wraith vessels, cut off from their command ship, began making mistakes. Human ships swarmed them like wolves attacking a wounded bear, hitting them from every angle with weapons they couldn't adapt to. Within 2 hours, the surviving Wraith ships were retreating back through the dimensional barriers they had come from. Their ancient invasion, which had seemed unstoppable just hours before, was broken by a species they had never encountered. As rescue ships moved through the debris field to help survivors, Admiral Thane opened a communication channel to the Ragnarok. His expression was a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "Admiral Mitchell, the Council will want a full report on your methods." James looked out at the stars, no longer feeling like humanity's representative had to apologize for existing. Around them, the massive Confederation fleet was reforming, but now the human ships were being treated as equals instead of unwanted helpers. Tell the Council that Earth is ready to discuss our new position in galactic defense. The age of human servitude was over. For 2 centuries, they had carried bags and swept floors while the advanced species made all the important decisions. But when the galaxy faced its greatest threat, it was human ingenuity and human stubbornness that saved everyone. The stillness had been shattered forever, and the galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again.